So again, for those of you who are joining us, we are recording this. We won't be taking live questions. And thank you again all for joining us for our 15-minute extended disc webinar today. Our topic today is something that we came up with kind of before all this craziness happened. So I know that, we're just going to, just kind of take a step back and just kind of breathe through this webinar. So today's topic is DISC is more than a communication tool. What can DISC do more than just how it's, how we think about using it commonly. My name is Christina. I'm the training director here at Extended DISC, and joining me today is my colleague, Marku Kauppanen, president of Extended DISC. I'm laughing because I don't usually see him in a baseball cap.
Well, listen, Christina, my youngest daughter, very honest, D-style, she says like, hey, Dad, you need a haircut. And she was absolutely correct, because I have a curly hair and it's kind of, it's just kind of expands. So, okay, I'm wearing a hat. This hat, by the way, I think I will be wearing different hats going forward. I'm a racing fan. This is from Daniel Ricciardo's Red Bull team from a couple of years ago. So that's the story behind the hat.
Well, it's a cool look for you, Marku.
Oh, thank you.
So we typically think about DISC when we use it. We think of it as a communication tool. What do we mean by that, Marku?
Well, before everything that's happening right now was happening, I was going to a lot of trade shows, and people came to me and said, hey, I love DISC. It's a great communication tool. We use these, and I think I shared this last week, how to communicate with a D style and I style and so forth. But really got me thinking is that I think people are really missing a lot, because yes, it's a fantastic communication tool. And of course, communication is so important to everything we do as a salesperson, as a manager, leader, customer service representative, team member, parent, on and on and on. However, it's so much more, because what DISC really is measuring is how we are as human beings, how we react to whatever is happening in our world right now, how we interact to a person we are communicating right now. So, like last week, we talked about virtual training, etc., which is really relevant what's happening now. But I wanted to have a kind of a lighter topic today and talk about understanding that DISC is how we do everything.
Yeah. And I think for many of us, we have our own definitions of communication. And I actually had to look it up, because I was like, oh yeah, I think I know how to define it. But communication itself really is the sharing of information, and sometimes I find myself even limiting it to, we think about DISC as a communication tool in face-to-face, but I talk about even expanding it beyond that. Communication is the gestures that we make, the emotions that we display on our face, how we write an email, how we communicate by phone. So communication itself is, DISC is a very powerful tool in communication. But today I wanted to kind of ask Marku to come and talk to us a little bit more about how we may not think of using DISC, but if we were to use it in such a way, it really would enhance everything that we do.
It does that, and it's a great point, Christina, because who we are as a human beings and what DISC does is DISC answers this question, how we do things. And it's so relevant personally to me right now, because I've been surrounded by a family, and which I'm so happy that they are with me right now. But I'm really seeing how we interact with people. So it's not how we communicate, it's how we do everything. Mm-hmm. So I think that the main point here with this webinar is that if you think about DISC, don't think about it as a communication tool only. What you really have to think about is how we do things. And if you think about your family, because I'm sure you are spending a lot of time with your family right now. In fact, most of our audience members right now probably at their homes. And if you stop and think about, if you're in an audience right now, think about what your spouse does, your kids do, or your parent does, how they do things. That's about disc. So when we think about disc, it's like the iceberg image we have on the screen right now, is that, there's so much more under the surface.
Yeah, I think one of the things Marku and I often we do, because neither of us are technical experts. I always throw that out there. So we usually kind of log on ahead of time and just want to make sure we get the technicalities out of the way of Zoom. And we're not endorsing Zoom. It's just something that we're using right now. But you think about all the people on Zoom right now, and how it's kind of exploded. But it's really like, we know how to turn it on, we know how to connect, we're now learning how to turn our cameras on, so it's, again, still the tip of the iceberg. I think that's the same analogy we want to make when we're talking about DISC right now. It's not that it's not a powerful tool, and if you only use DISC as a communication tool, you will still get an incredible amount of value in it. But what we want to just kind of plant the seed for you guys today is to think about, where else could you apply DISC? Maybe we haven't even thought about it yet, but there really is no aspect to our life that we cannot apply DISC to. And I will talk about some examples, and hopefully that kind of will spur you guys on to think about how much more you can use DISC in your practice and in your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. DISC will impact you every possible way. How we work virtually, how we deal with stress, pressure. It's just who we are as human beings, and then your natural behavioral style will always come to play. And if you are like all of us are right now, we are in a situation where the pressure is pretty heavy. The pressure is heavy. We really, really revert to our natural style. I noticed that in myself, like Marku, I had to say, hey, don't forget who you are as a human being. But as we think about DISC, I think the key point here, like Christina just mentioned, is that do not think about DISC as a communication tool. Think about it as how we help people to become more successful. And that's where many of our webinars, we talked about the 4 steps. What are the things we can do? So if you think about what's happening today, we must understand that we are different. Step 1, how we different as human beings, and we must understand it's not better or worse, we're just different. But second, if you want to be successful and deal whatever's happening in our world, and if you want to be more successful as a person, as a professional, no matter what your field of focus is that we must understand that in order for me to be better, in the step 2 is, how do I develop that confident self-awareness? We must look in the mirror, understand that, and accept that we have some strengths, we have some areas that we need to focus on, but ultimately we must own our style. Third step, I'm not doing 3 fingers there, Christina,
Yeah.
and yeah, is that we must understand that when we interacting with other people, it doesn't matter who they are, colleagues, friends, family, we must understand that they are different too, and we must identify who they are so we can get to the 4th step. And this is so important, most important. How do I modify my behavior, knowing who I am and who the other person is? Not only with communication, but as a parent, as a friend, as a colleague, as a salesperson, as a leader. And once we understand that, and we take and own that we have control of what we do, and accept that I have no control over the other person.
Yeah, and I think what's important is, Marku talks about interactions. And again, I had to, look it up to think, sometimes we overlap communication and interactions, but the way interactions is defined is, it is essentially the involvement, active involvement between 2 individuals, where, what one person does impacts the other person. And that's kind of a step beyond communication. And as Marku was saying, you know, understanding how we are all different, that we don't interact with people the same way, it kind of gives us that playbook. It kind of gives us a roadmap of here's where I am, here's where they are, how do I get from here to there, and that I'm in control of getting to there. And for those of you that are joining us, you know, again, to make sure that we encompass all DISC styles in our webinar today, you know, we're also gonna give you just a couple like leads of where, you know, DISC can be used beyond. So you think about leadership, or you think about sales. You know, those are two very common areas where there's a lot of information on how to be a better salesperson, on how to be a better leader. And, you know, sometimes it might tell you, be more assertive or be more of a team player. And what DISC can help us do is to take those techniques and apply it to ourselves. You know, are some of these techniques that is essentially written out there for everyone, how easy is it going to be for someone with my style to do it? Am I going to have to concentrate more? Or is this a technique that, oh, it's a piece of cake, I got this, you know? So I always tell you, whatever you think about, you know, whether you are planning a vacation, whether you are deciding on a career, or, you know, as Marku said, how you interact with your family, this can enhance your awareness of how you do those things and what you can succeed in doing those things.
Yeah, absolutely correct, Christina. And think about what we're doing right now. We're doing this webinar. We have lots of people on the webinar. Who they are, Christina, is how they will react what's happening right now. If they're D style, they're going to slow. I style, I wish I could ask them questions live. S style, let me kind of, you know, comment. By the way, my S styles, like, you know, okay, let me think about how I can apply this. And C styles may want to more some details. Yes, I'm generalizing a lot, but the point is this: what's happening right now, at this very moment, that you, Christina, me, and everybody who's listening and viewing this webinar, is that who you are as a person, as who you are in terms of how you interact with the world, it's happening right now. And that's based on your style. So what you cannot think about, I believe, when it comes to DISC, is that do not think about communication style, because who you are, it's happening right now.
Yeah, we're kind of in this kind of social experiment, right? And Marku and I were jokingly said, if we come out of this better for it, then we've really been practicing modifying our style. We've got quite a few questions, but there's one I just did want to answer very quickly. So Nora had asked, how can we modify our behavior over email? Would you like to answer that, Marku?
Oh, you're gonna put him on the spot, but yeah, I'll try to answer that. So you always want to look at somebody's style and who they are and recognize what your style is. Our autopilot would say, this is how I would answer. But when you look at the email, how much they say, is it short email, long email, what kind of words they use. But really what you want to do is to try to reply in a way they emailed you. So you want to same length, same amount of information. And just, you gotta, even if you are like not a detail-oriented person, you must pay attention to details in the sense that I want to understand who that person is.
Yeah.
You don't,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead,
And it
Kristen.
also is a good way to help you identify their style. You know, a lot of times our entire interaction is done by written communication. So I always jokingly say, if somebody sends me an email with the subject heading, hey, what time's the meeting today? And then you open up the email and there's nothing there but the signature, because they put everything in that subject heading. They're probably going to be maybe a D style, right? Very action oriented, to the point, you know. And so it's a reminder to me that if I'm not a D style, what's the best way, as Marku said, to kind of mirror that? You know, just don't go into detail, say meetings at 3 o'clock today, and then
The point, like a kind of bottom line here, is that you want to reply to the person the way they want to be replied to. Do not reply the way you would like to be replied to. So you have
Otherwise,
to
you'll
look for
get a
those.
lot of emails back and
Yeah,
forth.
yeah. So no, the wonderful thing about DISC is that you can control your behavior.
Mhm.
And once you accept that, then you can own it, you can be in control, and ultimately you can be better person, better parent, sister, brother, all of those things, parent, colleague, and all those things. So it's very empowering, actually. So think about that, and I think we are getting close to our end, aren't we?
Yeah. So one thing I just want you guys out there to think about, and really challenge your own clients to think about, is what how can I apply DISC to other aspects of my life? We do DISC within our work setting. How can I be more successful because I use DISC? So that's something I want to challenge you guys to think more about. Thank you guys all for joining us today. We do have another webinar. It's kind of a new and exciting one. It's the Sales Capacity Team Assessment Suite, and we're going to focus in on just one module of it, which are the team sales competences.
Yeah, it's going to be a great webinar. And go to extendis.org. You see the website there on the screen. And go to the top right corner and you find the events tab and click on there and just make sure you register for upcoming webinars. And you don't have to be present, but as long as you do that, you'll be sure to get the recording afterwards. And one thing I'd like to say at closing here, and I'm going about 2 minutes late here, I really would like to say thank you to all of our loyal clients, but more importantly, all the health workers like my daughter that are really doing a great job. And it's a tough time, so but I know we'll get through this. We just need to do our right things, and everything will be okay. Tough times, but everything will be okay.
Stay healthy, everyone, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. Take care.
Thank you.